Well, hello, this is going to be your nightlight. Wow, it has been a minute. I have been shut in and praying, and this word came to me really close to the last day of my shut in, and I thought about it and said, okay, well, I'm up now, very refreshed and relaxed. So I want to give you this nightlight, only part of it that I hope that will help a brother and a sister out. I don't come with 100, but I do come with experience. And so I pray that God will allow you to do your own soul searching to see what may be fragmented with you. And so I want to make sure that what I'm talking about here, that no one takes it as a bias against men or anything like that, because I do love men. I just want to make sure that relationships work. That's my main ultimate goal all the time when I talk about relationships or family matters. And so just want to get that out really quick before I jump into this message about why some men can't cleave. Let's just talk about the word cleave real quick because I'm not going to stay on here, but I started to think about this. And over the years of counseling men and women, relationships, marriages, I kind of look at this situation as it relates to men and women who still may be stuck in the area of sin. That's the capital C, the capital E, and the capital N, meaning that they're dealing with childhood emotional neglect in a lot of ways, and nobody really paid that attention when it comes to fragmentation of our soul from going through so much trauma in our lives. Being a survivor of a many things, to God be all glory that He has blessed me to be able to be strong enough to share some situations that people can hopefully get something from. But let's look at this word cleave and why it's so important. In Genesis 2 and 24, it talks about, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and there shall be one flesh. Now, when we talk about this word cleave, we're talking about staying close to, we're talking about clinging to, we're talking about leaving and making sure that you understand how to sever that relationship, and meaning that part that you wanted to get from your mother by now, you should have received in some fashion through that nurturing and bonding from that parent. So that means you need to sever it now, that you have received a relationship, that you know now this is your mate, primarily your married mate. We're going to stay there. And, you're going to sever the mother and the father. You're going to loose these places where you felt so secure, and you're going to depart now these emotional attachments that you have from expecting your mother to do these things. And now you have a wife or you have a husband. Okay. 'Cause we don't want to leave women out of this thing too, because they don't know how to clean many times too, because many of them still have been neglected in a lot of ways too. But I want to just talk about the men right now, just to kind of get the women to understand where you may have had yourself in this situation. Maybe you're just dating, particularly those I want to talk to, because we got a lot of the marriages, how they say, at the brink of not staying married because they've got all of these sin issue situations going on. But the men, a lot of men are hurting and they don't know how to talk about their pain. They don't know how to leave that old soul tie or that old relationship that they once had, to know how to cleave with a relationship that they have made a decision that they're going to stay in this long term and wait for marriage, or they jump right into the marriage and realize that they still suffering from sin. But you have to look at the relationship of where you are right now and see, do I have this right type of mentality to want to be with this relationship? Or is this person really going to be my spouse? Am I going to take responsibility of my own personal inner healing before I get with that person? But I wanted to talk about this part, so I pray that you'll listen intensely for this short part of this message that I'm going to go through. So I want to share a couple of the reasons why tonight, and I hope that they'll bless you in some fashion. Let's talk about the complex part of this thing, and I think that that's what's wrong. I want to talk about, many of us are in complex relationships, and once they say, "Oh, it's just too complicated," or "Are you too, you too complicated?" When we talk about complex personalities, it's important that we pay attention to that part of it, because this is why some men can't cleave, because they just simply too deep. I put that in the hashtag. You too deep, too clean. You're too deep with your own personal self, your own representative of the ego, wherever it is that you want to try to make sure that the person understand where you're coming from. But the first part I want to talk about is why you are so deep, why you can't cleave. The first part and first reason is because even though you're supposed to cleave to that mate, one of the hardest part now for relationships to maintain is because the person has become too complex. And the reason why they become so complex is because they become so deep that they don't even really know who they are. I pray that you would think about getting my book. I was looking at it, talking about the soulful fragment symptoms in there on page 36. I talk about the unresolved pain from the fragmentation, the reflections by one another that many of you are looking at, and you're expecting something different that you really don't have, that you really need for yourself. So when a person experiences all this type of heavy trauma and rejection, abandonment, betrayal, and all this stuff, their identity, including their personality and their emotions, they go through a process of fragmentation. And so what that means is when the body divides these particular feelings and these emotions in these different places in your mind and your heart, they keep some kind of hidden safe away in this space that really caused this person to be very complex. That now they're protecting their emotions. And I've been there. I didn't want to let the person know really what I was feeling, because I didn't want to feel that pain no more. But these painful emotional triggers can bring fragments to the forefront of your mind and just sit there in the seat of your soul, in your heart. And as they become very fragmented, these things that you learn, or these places where you've been, they start to separate different entities of pain. Okay. And they become unavailable, they become conscious or sometimes unconscious. And we do things and we pick people. Oh, God ain't pick for us. We just want to feel better. We want to feel connected. We want to feel a part of something. But there's no reason for you to be there when you really realize that this person is just too complex for you. Let me talk to you about it real, real quick so I can get off here, because I'm gonna just only do part one tonight of this nightlight. And prayerfully, I'll get a chance to do part two later. But I was up and felt it was a good time, since I'm feeling refreshed and everything. Try to get some sound counsel. I pray that the Holy Spirit will use me, and that no flesh will glory here. But most important, that you would hear wisdom through me in Jesus' name. So the first part of this, uh, a person that is very complex. If you notice in your relationship, whether it's a man or a woman, because remember, many of them can't cleave either, because they've been hurt so bad too and abused, and they're all mixed up with their identity and everything else. But they don't answer simply. They just don't just give a simple answer. They can't. They can't say yes or they can't say no. So instead, they want to respond in great detail. They give you all this roundabout reason why, and once they see that, this person becomes so engulfed in what they're thinking or what they're feeling, they become overwhelmed. They give you all these scenarios of why it turned out like that and why things turned the way it did and why they can't trust you or why you can't trust them or why y'all are going through. They just can't answer you right away. All they know is, well, you know how it is. It's just too complicated right now. That's what they pretty much wind up telling you. This is the reason why they can't cleave in that relationship or communication part of it. Number two, they're very analytical. Okay. One thing about a person that seems so deep because they've been hurt and they've been betrayed and, they don't want to feel it no more, they become very analytical. They think big. They look at everything major instead of looking at the minor. They want to look at the major on everything. Nothing is simple. They want to gloss over. They want to buff and shine everything. They want to dig real deep. They want to consider all options. They want to look at every angle, every test, every trial, every past thing you did, or what you used to do, or what you used to be. These things are not black and white to them, but they always a gray matter. They want a gray R because they're trying to see how they can find out really what the true fine line is. And the third thing is they can be worriers. This is one reason why they don't communicate, because they're constantly thinking. They're thinking about what's in their conscious, and the thing that is unconscious is what's really riding them, that fragmented hurt and pain. That's what I'm talking about from my book that's entitled Attachments. Number seven, okay? And it's seven side effects that I talk about the unconscious blood type personality. You want to get it, but what it's talking about is who you really are when nobody's around you, and what your blood type in this book is trying to give you just an overview to see what your ego representative is doing to you secretly, even before you become intimate with anybody, or when you become intimate with somebody, what you're really doing, what you're really still cleaved to, and what's causing the relationship to have problems or bumps in the road when you finally find out, or they find out, who you really are in these areas that I'm talking about right now. You're too deep, you're too analytical, that you worry a lot because you're trying to make sure you be a pleaser, or that you get them to please you because you lack the CEN that I talked about earlier on, the childhood emotional neglect that you needed help with. So they can be worriers because nothing is simple or taking face value for them. They can have difficulty being present when you want to be carefree, or you want them to be carefree. They are entangled with deep thinking, and they say they just need their space. They're very analytical about these jumping around things in their mind from their past and thinking about what they're going to do in the future. And do they really want to be with you? Do they want to be single? Do they want to be married? Or did I make a mistake here? So they're very analytical. So you can't figure them out. They're always drawn away or want to go away because they're severing silently the relationship, because they don't know how to cleave, because they still trying to figure out what they need to be doing for themselves. They're very self motivated, but they're self centered. They're analytical. Their mind jumps around, like I said, from the past and the future situations, making them quite stressed and anxious. They're anxious themselves to do anything, pop in, pop out, And I talked about that. If you go back and look on my channel here, I talk about the yo-yo relationships. They want to yo-yo you up, yo-yo you down, side, bring you in, take you away. This is very important so you can know what your relationship is doing. So when you think that this person is ready to really cleave and really to talk and really to communicate, when you think about all these possible scenarios, good or bad, it can be very tricky to accept life as it is with this type of personality. I want you to think about what I'm saying here to you tonight, just for this night life, to give you this wise counsel. I pray that you go and pick up my book that's called Attachments 7 Side Effects. Unconscious blood type personality. You'll find that at Amazon.com under Dr. Sandy Murphy. There are several books that I've written there, but this one tonight, I think it's important for the subject I'm talking about. Figured I'm up, why not give you some type of wise counsel before you get any deeper in this particular situation where he can't or you can't cleave because you're still dealing with the CEN, and the other part of it is that it's too complicated. I'll talk to you later. I pray that you work on the complexities of the things that you've heard here tonight. And when I come back, maybe I'll give you a couple of more of these complexities that many of the relationships, and many relationships, whether they're heterosexual or same sex. But the problem is that when you find yourself not being able to cleave in the relationship, that means you haven't severed the bonding. That means the soul tie is still working, and you're not going to be able to do anything but think about what you're needing in the CEN. I'll talk to you later. I pray that the rest of your night is good and restful, and I pray that you'll be able to think about what you've heard here tonight to move forward in a really, really bonding relationship that you can feel more secure. But you're not going to be able to do it without the great I am. I'll talk to you later. Good night.